Hello there and welcome to video number 113. This video is on proportion and recipe style questions. The keywords are recipe and scaling. Now a recipe is a list of ingredients that you get given. Nothing different to what actually is in real life, a recipe. And scaling is when you can multiply to make things bigger or divide to make things smaller. Now again, you could just use the unitary method to work these types of questions out. I mentioned it in the last video. Sometimes you might be able to work them out quicker though. So for example, if you get a recipe that's for 8 people and you need it for 16 people, all you'd need to do is double everything. If you wanted it for 24 people, you would triple everything. If you wanted it for just 2 people, you'd have to divide the recipe or all the ingredients in the recipe by 4. Okay, so I'm going to do the easiest thing in question number 1, and you'll see what that is. So a recipe for a cheesecake, a lovely cheesecake that serves 12 people, is shown. Work out the amount of each ingredient that you would need for 24 people. So what you should notice here is that if the cheesecake's recipe is for 12 people, if you mixed all that up, put it all together, baked it or did whatever you needed to do with it, followed the instructions, you would get enough for 12 people. All right, all you would need to do is double each one of these ingredients to get it for 24 people, because 24 is double 12. All right, that's the connection there. That's quite nice. So all we're doing is multiplying each of these ingredients by 2. Okay, so times by 2, 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 all of them need to be times by 2. All right, we're scaling them up. So that's going to be 500 grams of digestive biscuits. I'm just going to write these relatively quickly, of DB. And then 200 grams of butter and 2 vanilla pods. And 600 would turn into 1,200 of soft or full fat soft cheese. Obviously you wouldn't write these in abbreviated form. You would actually get them already written there for you as part of your answer space. 100 turns into 200 of icing sugar, and then 284 is the most awkward one to double. We double 200, we get 400. Double 84, we get 168. So that's 568 milliliters of cream. Okay, and there is the recipe that would serve 24 people with a lovely cheesecake, making me hungry. Now, number 2, we've got a recipe for an omelette that serves 3 people and is shown. Calculate the quantity of each ingredient to serve 16 people. Now this is slightly awkward, right? What I'm going to do, just pause video, get the calculator. Magic. Now, there it is. We're going to use the calculator. What I'm going to do a similar sort of thing. I'm going to find out what I need to multiply each thing by. So I'm going to take the 16 people, right? And then I'm going to divide by 3. All right, that's going to give me how much I would need for one person, or the scalar that I would need for one person. If I multiplied all the ingredients by this particular number, I'd work out what it is for one person. So 16 divided by 3 is 16 thirds, which is 5 and a third. Okay, so I'm going to multiply each one of these ingredients by 16 thirds, multiplied by 16 over 3. And that's the quickest way to do this question. You would be allowed a calculator for this one. This is not one you would have to do without a calculator. All right, and it's awkward, isn't it, doing it like this? Because it's horrible. You got 16 thirds. It don't like working with these numbers normally. But if we do that to all of these ingredients, 2 times by 16 thirds, we're going to find out how many eggs it is. So 16 thirds times by 2 is 10 and 2/3 of an egg. All right, so 10 and 2/3 eggs. Now obviously you're probably not going to use 2/3 of an egg and keep 1/3 of an egg for something else. All right, so you'd probably use 11 eggs, but we're being exact with our answer here. All right, 100 grams of smoked ham multiplied by 16 thirds. So 100 multiplied by 16. I need to press the fraction button first, sorry. 16 over 3. And that gives me 533 and a third. Grams of ham. Half a pepper, so half 1 over 2 multiplied by 16 over 3. Multiplying fractions, aren't we? It's quite nice. 8/3 of a pepper, 2 2/3 of a pepper. 1 small onion, so 1 multiplied by 16/3. 16/3, remember, 16 divided by 3. If we just times it by 1, it's going to be the same thing, so 5 1/3 of an onion. 6 sliced black olives times by 16/3. That's going to be a whole number. So 16. Keep doing that. Fraction button first. 16/3 multiplied by 6. 32. So 32 olives. 200 grams of cheese. I know it's a bit laborious, isn't it, doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe I could have made the question just a little bit smaller with a smaller recipe, but I didn't, so tough. There you go. There's that one. 1066 2/3 grams of cheese. Lots of cheese. We like cheese. And then 1 tablespoon is going to be 5 1/3 of a tablespoon of oil. There we go. There's our recipe that would serve 16 people. Easiest thing to do, take the 16, divide it by the 3, or take the number that you want for the recipe and divide it by the number that it is for the recipe, get the number and scale it up that way. Okay, now let's look at the third and final question. A little bit more thought involved in this one probably, as there always is for the third question. So here's a recipe for shortcake. The recipe for shortcake, you can see it says it makes 12. Taz makes some and uses 15 milliliters of milk. How many does he make? So he's not used 10 milliliters of milk, he's used 15 milliliters of milk. So he's not making 12, he's making more than 12. I hope that makes sense straight away. But the thing that strikes me is if you halved 10, you would get 5, all right? And there's an extra 5 milliliters here. So 5 milliliters is equal to 6 shortcakes. Just going to put 6 SCs. That stands for shortcakes. So that means if we multiply by 3, we'd have 15 milliliters. Right? And then that's easy to multiply by 3. 6 times by 3 is 18 shortcakes. And that must be our answer. There we go. 18 shortcakes is what he's made. All right, relatively simple one. In B, we've got Usman checks his cupboard and has got 500 grams of sugar, 2,000 grams of butter, 1,000 grams of flour, and 150 milliliters of milk. What's the maximum number of shortbread that he can make? First of all, I'm not sure why he's got his milk in his cupboard. Probably should be in the fridge along with the butter, but never mind. 500 grams of sugar. Compare that to the 50 grams of sugar that makes 12, right? Well, if he was going to use all of his sugar, that's 10 times more than this, right? So times by 10, right? Let's just write that down to remind ourselves of how many batches of this he can make, right? That's going to be 12 times 10, and 12 times 10 is 120. All right, he can make 120 shortcakes if he used all his sugar. 2,000 grams of butter, that's 10 times more as well. All right, so that's going to be another, that means he could make 120. So far, the maximum number is 120. 1,000 grams of flour. So how many 200s are there in 1,000? Well, knock the zeros off, knock 2 zeros off of that, knock 2 zeros off of that. That's 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So that's 5 batches, all right? And 5 times by 12, or 12 times by 5, doesn't matter which way around you do it, is 60. Okay, so we can only make 60 now. Can't make the 120. I haven't got enough flour. All right. Let's just check to see if we've got enough milk to make 60. So we've got to do the 150 divided by 10. That's 15 times more. So we've got enough for 15 batches there. Doesn't matter what this one is. But 12 times by 15 would be 180. So that is the smallest number there. But it is the maximum number of shortbreads that he can make, or shortcakes. That says shortbreads, shortcakes. It's a different thing. I'm going to get complaints now. No, I'm not. If you are going to complain about that, please do write it in the comments. Write me a formal letter of complaint, and I will not change it because I've made the entire video now. So there we go. It is the maximum number he can make because he hasn't got enough of the other ingredients, right? And that's the sort of question that you might be faced with that's a little bit more tricky. I hope that's all made sense. Thank you for watching this one. Got a real tickle in my throat here. I'm going to cough in a minute. Take care of yourselves. Look after one another. Click the link in the description. Not sure if I said that already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.